Welcome back to Mornings. You know, most of us outside the legal profession do not understand what happens in a real-life court case. Now, we see the Hollywood television shows, the courtroom battles, but how close to reality are they? Judith Fordham is an Australian criminal lawyer, barrister and associate professor of forensic science. She has seen it all from the inside. She joins me this morning. Very good morning, Judith.
And to you, Kerri-Anne.
What a wonderful life, and especially in the blokey world of law. Now, you did a study, what you call the CSI effect. Now, we've seen all these television shows. What's the reality of that in a courtroom?
Well, my study involved talking to real-life jurors after real-life trials, which is normally completely illegal. I was lucky enough to get the Attorney General's permission to do it. And the questions I was asking was really, does a jury understand all this fancy science? Science has become incredibly important to prosecute cases and in the courtroom, and whether the jury actually does understand it.
So when you got to chat to these people, what was your gut feel?
My gut feel is that actually they do in general a fantastic job. They raise to the level of, if you like, the smartest person on the jury. They all explain it to each other. If the scientists get it right, if they learn to communicate properly, which is an issue, and if the lawyers get it right and learn to understand it, because it's all very well for the scientists to know what they're talking about, but if the lawyers don't have a clue, then it's never going to get explained or used properly. If everyone else in the team gets it right, then the jury does tend to sort of lift their game and understand enough of it to come up with a fair decision.
Well, that brings us back, if the juries that you think are getting there, if it's explained properly by the scientists in the dummies form, do the barristers, do the lawyers, do the judges get it? Very often not, and that's something I'm trying to remedy. Somebody's sentence, their life sentence this way or that way, depends on it.
It's seriously scary, and you know, I've heard some lawyers ask some seriously dumb questions. I've heard lawyers virtually hammering the nails into their client's coffin, defence lawyers, because of the sorts of questions they're asking, and that's scary. I'm not saying they're all like that, but there's too many for my level of comfort anyway. If I was a client, I'd be a bit worried.
You went into criminal law. I mean, you've had an amazing life. I mean, when you started in your legal career, you were on welfare, raising 4 children on your own. This is a very male-dominated area with a woman who didn't have a great start in life.
It was very male-dominated. With talking 20 years ago in the practice of criminal law, and there weren't many women out there at all, and I certainly had to develop a very thick skin and learn to take it on the chin. There was no room to be precious, and there was no room to, you know, be girly. I'm sorry, I had to be fairly tough.
So, can we in Australia, very few people know anything about the law system. We hardly know the difference between civil cases, criminal cases, magistrates, lawyers, solicitors, barristers. It's a confusing world.
That's right, it is.
Can you get a fair trial if you do not have a bucket of money?
Oh, that's a hard one to answer. If your lawyer gives a damn, if your lawyer puts everything into it, yes, you can. But it is sometimes luck of the game, and it's sad that that's the way it is. I do believe that mega bucks can sometimes buy a higher standard of justice, and that's wrong and it's sad.
Very wrong and sad. Now, I know you've just returned from the United States. You attended and as I mentioned, Associate Professor of Forensic Science. So this is a specialty of yours. When you were in the United States, you met Kathy Reichs, who we had on the program last year. Now, Kathy, apart from being a world best-selling author, is also a forensic anthropologist. Meeting her and her experience?
Well, it was pretty amazing to see someone who's that famous. You know, I mean, I'm still thinking, oh my gosh, I'm an author. I'm like her, but I just don't really feel that I am. I'm still getting used to it. But Kathy Reichs, she was there with her forensic anthropologist hat on, and she was just being a normal person until I found out how much she gets as an advance for every book, and then I sort of fell over.
Yeah, it's millions virtually.
Millions, evidently. I mean, perhaps that's just a rumour. I'm not.
No,
I didn't hear it from her, but. That's a lot of money. I thought, well, there's hope for me yet, isn't there?
Well, I mean, she did create a lot. Even the television show Bones was based on her. Many successful shows, but she's really done the hard yards, the forensic work, every trial from Guatemala to Africa. Did you two communicate on that forensic level?
Well, we did, because that's where we were and that's who we were. But I think the very fact she continues working in her chosen profession as well as writing is fantastic, and sort of adds some real, reality to what she's talking about.
If Judith Fordham, you had to change the legal system from your observation of being, a real person in a real world, not having to be precious and make a living for your 4 kids, what would you change about the legal system?
I think going on from what we were saying before, I think I'd make it more accessible to people. I'd make it more accessible in terms of being able to find a lawyer and know something about them. I'd also make it more open. I'd have more televised trials. I'd have the public better informed about what's actually going on, instead of just getting the edited highlights or lowlights.
And again, what you had permission from a very high level, jury intimidation. Now, I know this is sort of still under a cloud and there's not a lot you can tell us, but is this a fact?
Well, I think everybody believes it happens from time to time, and my mission is to find out, is it happening, how is it happening, and to what extent is it happening, and that's where we're at the moment.
And your book, I love it. The title of your book, we've got it up there, Life Law.
And Not Enough Shoes.
And Not Enough Shoes. You're a shoe girl.
I'm a shoe nut.
Now, this sort of flies in the face of legal lawyers and barristers, and so you run around the world and you see a pair of shoes and you just love them.
Look, isn't this not a thing of beauty?
Yeah.
Is this not delightful?
And you bought several in, and I know you've been travelling. But does that ever fly in the face of the credibility of a barrister and a forensic scientist?
Basically, I don't care. If it does, it makes me a real person, it makes me normal, it makes me female, it makes me human. And if people have got an issue with that, then they can go somewhere else for their help, can't they?
Yeah, indeed. Now, I'm proud of you, because it's nice to know you've created your reality and you do things on your terms, and you're confident with what you can deliver. It's terrific to have you on the show. Congratulations on the book. It's a good, fun read. There's some great moments and some of the wonderful trials you've enjoyed and suffered through, but we do appreciate your time. Good morning.
Well, thank you.
Judith Fordham joining us.